Right. Okay, good morning. We're going to do a sample of our presentation upcoming at the Society of Laparoscopic Surgery. And the study is on the non-resectional or the Mini-Sleeve-Gastroplasty. Right now there's a lot of excitement over a new kind of surgery called the sleeve. And we have kind of mixed feelings about the sleeve. We think it's okay. But the sleeve that we've been using for a long time is one that's got some special characteristics, and we've been invited to talk about it at this national meeting, so we're going to talk about it. And you don't get to see the slides today, but the slides are really good. Good morning!
They just went to wait.
Oh, good, good.
Has everybody
Hey, Arnold!
so far?
I mean, Jose, how are you?
Good.
Good. How much?
For the 2 weeks, 25.
Congratulations. Good. So the mini gastric bypass is now being used around the world. It's in the United States, in about 4 states, in Mexico, Costa Rica, Colombia, England, Italy, Spain, France, Austria, Germany, Lebanon, Israel, Turkey, India, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and tomorrow another laparoscopic mini gastric bypass is being done in Perth, Australia, as they're taking out a failed lap band. And so it's good that it's spreading. As I said, one of the nice new surgeries that people are liking and talking about a lot is the sleeve gastrectomy. Now, sleeve, you cut the outside edge of the stomach out and throw it away. It's good. People like it because it's pretty easy to do, doesn't require a connection, may be safer than the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass and the duodenal switch. But one of the big concerns is that it's irreversible. Also, in a recent study published in April of this year, 247 sleeve gastrectomies were done, and they had 12 complications, including a death, which makes a 0.6, almost not quite 1% death rate. And they had 2 leaks, which is a 1.3% leak rate. And so although they conclude that it's safe and effective, there's still some questions. And there have been some good weight loss in the sleeve gastrectomy early on, but as you look over time, in a study published in just in August of this year, they showed that the weight loss started to decline. And so at 3 years it was down to only 77%, and then at 6 years down to 55%. So that means basically people are gaining their weight back. And a quarter of patients almost, or 21%, had severe reflux symptoms start up after it. So the sleeve has got its own problems. Now the mini gastric bypass has created a long, narrow gastric pouch or a sleeve for as long as we've been doing it, since 1997. So it's been using that approach for a long time. But we have occasionally done a sleeve type operation. So over the 14 years or 13 years we've been doing it now, we do occasionally do a sleeve, and we do it in 2 circumstances. One, if we can't do the bypass. So sometimes people have a gunshot wound or perforation or some other serious illness with surgery particularly, or colostomy bag, and that will block us from doing the bypass, and so we'll have to do a sleeve in them even though we might have wanted to do a bypass. The other reason we do the sleeve sometimes is if people are little. So for our smaller patients, we'll often use a smaller surgery, and that's the mini gastric bypass without the bypass, and we call that the mini or the sleeve gastroplasty or surgery. So we're going to talk about those results. Out of this almost 6,000 people, we had about 400 who had this mini gastroplasty. And basically, it's a long, narrow stomach pouch like the MGB, but with no bypass. And we'll show the video of how it's done. And in the series, we had 55 people that we could not do the bypass. So out of 6,000, 55, so not too many, we couldn't do the bypass. There was just no way to do the bypass. In 352, we classified them as having less severe obesity. And in those cases, we bypassed 0. We just gave them the small, narrow stomach, and that's what we're reporting on. In the patients we couldn't do the bypass, they were heavier. Their BMI was 46, and that means that they have excess body weight, on average, of about 150 pounds. So they were 150 pounds heavier than they should be on average. Good morning, come in the house. For the people who were, quote, less severely overweight, they were about 70 pounds overweight. So that's about half as much, if you think about it. So one group, the ones who we couldn't do the bypass but we wanted to, weighed about 140 pounds above their ideal body weight. And the smaller patients weighed about 70-some pounds over their body weight. So bigger people and littler people. Big people got just the sleeve or just the stomach, and little people just got the sleeve or just the stomach. And so we're going to talk about both groups. There were no deaths, and the mean weight loss in the heavy patients was about 31 kilograms, which is around 70 pounds. And they lost 48% of their extra body weight. So it was okay. 70 pounds is all right. But for the littler people, the lower, less severely overweight people, they also lost around 30 pounds, around 29 kilograms, which is around 70 pounds, and that's 87% of their excess body weight. So basically, what does this mean? The MGB and the Mini-Sleeve are two surgeries, one more powerful than the other. If you have to have the sleeve and you're really big, it's not going to work very well, but it helps somewhat if you can't do anything else. For our smaller patients, the sleeve, if you're little to start off with, may be a reasonable choice if you're not as heavy as some of our bigger and heavier patients. And that's our conclusion, that the sleeve is appropriate if you're on the smaller side, but if you're bigger, you're going to need the mini gastric bypass. So, yeah, I didn't really like that presentation. So anyway.